Elena Vasquez stood in the grand chamber of the Galactic Confederation Council. The ceiling stretched high above her head, filled with floating crystals that glowed with soft blue light. Around her, representatives from dozens of alien species sat in tall chairs that looked like works of art. She had waited 3 years for this moment. 3 years since humans first made contact with the galaxy's greatest government. 3 years of careful talks, shared knowledge, and hopes for the future. Elena wore her best diplomatic uniform. The dark blue fabric carried small Earth symbols that showed her pride in her home world. Her team stood behind her, Dr. James Chun, the smartest person she knew about alien cultures, and Captain Sarah Martinez, who commanded Earth's small but growing space fleet. The head of the council was a tall, thin being called HFY. His species, the Altarians, had been part of the Confederation for over 2,000 years. His skin looked like silver metal, and his 4 eyes glowed with yellow light. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber. The Council has reviewed Earth's request to join the Galactic Confederation, HFY said. His words were translated instantly into Elena's language through tiny devices in her ears. We have studied your species for 3 years. We have examined your history, your culture, and your nature. Elena felt her heart beating faster. This was it. Humanity's chance to join the greatest alliance in the known galaxy. They could share technology, trade with hundreds of worlds, and explore the stars together. The Council's decision is final, HFY continued. Earth's request for membership is denied. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. Around her, she heard Dr. Chen gasp softly. Captain Martinez's hand moved toward her weapon, but Elena gave her a tiny shake of the head. Furthermore, HFY said, the Council finds that humanity poses a significant threat to galactic peace. Your species shows dangerous levels of aggression, unpredictability, and expansion drive. You have destroyed your own world's environment. You fight constant wars among yourselves. You advance technologically at an alarming rate. Elena found her voice. Honored Counselor, we have worked hard to overcome our past mistakes. We've ended war on Earth. We've begun healing our environment. We come here in peace. Another council member spoke up. This one looked like a giant insect with rainbow-colored wings. Your species developed spaceflight in less than a century. You went from first flight to interstellar travel in only 300 years. Most civilized species take 2,000 years to reach such levels. That shows our ability to learn and grow, Elena argued. HFY's 4 eyes focused on her. It shows your dangerous nature. You adapt too quickly. You change too fast. You cannot be controlled or predicted. The Confederation values stability, order, and predictable behavior. A third alien, this one covered in thick fur and standing on 6 legs, added, your own historical records show over 5,000 major wars in just the last 10,000 years. The Veltar species has had 3 conflicts in their entire 50,000-year recorded history. Elena felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. We have learned from those mistakes. We've built a united world government. We've created peace. For barely 50 years, HFY said with what sounded like scorn. The Altarians have maintained peace for 40,000 years. This is the difference between a mature species and a dangerous young race. The insect-like being buzzed its wings. The Council has also decided that humanity must withdraw from all territory beyond your home system. Your colonies on the 7 worlds you have claimed must be abandoned within 1 standard galactic year. Elena's mouth fell open. You're not just denying us membership. You're banishing us? The safety of the Confederation requires it, HFY said firmly. Your expansion must be stopped before you become an even greater threat. Trade agreements between human worlds and Confederation members are now cancelled. Your ships are banned from Confederation space. Dr. Chun stepped forward. This is a mistake. Humanity has so much to offer. Our creativity, our problem-solving abilities, our determination to overcome challenges. Your determination is exactly what we fear, the furry six-legged alien said. You do not accept limits. You do not respect boundaries. You push against every obstacle until it breaks. Elena looked around the chamber. Dozens of alien faces stared back at her. Some looked sad, others afraid, but none looked willing to speak for humanity. After 3 years of building relationships, not one ally stepped forward. The decision is final, HFY announced. Human representatives have 7 days to leave Confederation space. All human colonies beyond the Sol system must be evacuated within 1 year. Any human ships found in Confederation territory after that time will be destroyed. The chamber began to empty as alien representatives filed out. Elena stood frozen, watching 20 years of diplomatic work crumble in minutes. This was supposed to be humanity's greatest moment. Instead, it was their greatest failure. As the crowds thinned, Elena heard 2 council members talking quietly near a side exit. They spoke in the common galactic language, not knowing that Elena had learned it perfectly during her years of preparation. Do you think we were too harsh? One asked. Not harsh enough, the other replied. Did you see their technological progression reports? They went from steam engines to fusion power in 2 centuries. At this rate, they'll surpass us in 1,000 years, maybe less. That's what worries the leadership. We've been the dominant species for 40,000 years. If humans continue advancing at this rate, they could challenge our authority. Better to keep them locked in their system now, while we still can. Elena felt something cold settle in her stomach. This wasn't about humanity being too dangerous. This was about fear. The Confederation wasn't protecting the galaxy from humanity. They were protecting their own power. The 2 aliens moved away, leaving Elena alone with her team. Captain Martinez looked ready to start shooting. Dr. Chun stared at his feet, clearly thinking hard about what he had heard. Elena made a decision that would change everything. She walked over to her team and spoke in a whisper. They think we're too unpredictable, she said softly. They fear our growth rate. They want to cage us because they're afraid of what we might become. So what do we do? Captain Martinez asked. Elena smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. We become exactly what they're afraid of. But we do it where they can't see us coming. The 3 humans walked out of the chamber with their heads held high. Behind them, the Confederation Council celebrated their decision to protect galactic stability. They had no idea they had just made the biggest mistake in their 40,000-year history. 5 years had passed since the Galactic Confederation threw humanity out of the stars. Most people expected humans to stay angry and bitter, trapped in their home system like animals in a cage. The aliens thought they had solved their human problem. They were completely wrong. Elena Vasquez now worked from a hidden base built inside a dead asteroid. The base looked like empty rock from the outside, but inside, it buzzed with activity. Hundreds of humans worked at computer screens, planned secret missions, and built technologies the Confederation had never imagined. Status report, Elena said as she walked into the main control room. Her hair was now touched with gray, but her eyes burned brighter than ever. Dr. Chun looked up from his workstation. He had spent 5 years studying every piece of information about alien psychology and culture. His desk was covered with alien language books, cultural studies, and behavioral analysis charts. The Veltar government is about to make a major mistake, he said. They're planning to increase taxes on their colony worlds by 40%. Based on my studies, this will cause at least 3 colonies to rebel within 6 months. Elena nodded. And the Altarians? HFY is losing political support. His Warhawk speeches are making the younger generation nervous. If someone pushed the right pressure points, he could be removed from power within 2 years. Captain Martinez walked over with a smile on her face. She now commanded what humans secretly called the Ghost Fleet, ships so advanced that alien sensors couldn't detect them. The technology came from 5 years of desperate innovation, pushed by the need to survive. The Kepler station mission was a complete success, Martinez reported. We installed monitoring equipment on 17 Confederation communication satellites. They'll never know we're listening to everything they say. Elena looked at the large screen that showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked Confederation worlds. Blue dots showed human colonies that officially didn't exist. Green dots marked hidden monitoring stations. Yellow dots showed alien friends who secretly traded with humans. The map told an amazing story. In 5 years, humanity had built the largest intelligence network in galactic history. They had agents living disguised on dozens of alien worlds. They had hidden bases and systems the Confederation thought were empty. They had made allies among alien species that felt oppressed or ignored by the Confederation's rigid rules. Dr. Chun, Elena said, tell me about the Zephyrian situation. Chun pulled up another screen showing a reptile-like alien species. The Zephyrians tried to join the Confederation 3 times and were rejected each time. They're classified as too primitive because they haven't developed faster than light travel yet. But they're brilliant engineers and have resources the Confederation wants. Perfect. Captain Martinez, I want you to take a stealth ship to their homeworld. Offer them a trade agreement. We'll give them FTL technology in exchange for raw materials and engineering expertise. Martinez raised an eyebrow. That's against every Confederation law about technology sharing. Elena smiled coldly. We're not Confederation members, remember. Their laws don't apply to us. This had become Elena's strategy. Since humanity was banned from official galactic society, they would build their own society in the shadows. They would make their own rules and their own alliances. The first major test came when, too. Confederation member species almost went to war over mining rights in a disputed system. The Talanari and the Bixen had been arguing for months. Confederation diplomats were making the situation worse with their slow, bureaucratic approach. Elena gathered her team in the planning room. The walls were covered with information about both species, their psychology, their needs, their fears, and their leaders. The war starts in 3 weeks if nothing changes, Dr. Chen reported. The Confederation Council is still debating whether to get involved. By the time they decide, millions could be dead. Elena studied the information. Both species needed the rare metals in that system, but for different reasons. The Talanari needed them for medical equipment. The Bixen needed them for their spaceships. What if they didn't need to fight? Elena asked. How do you mean? Martinez asked. Elena pointed to a star map. There are 3 other systems with similar resources. One is officially empty. We know because we've surveyed it secretly. Another is claimed by the Confederation, but they've never sent anyone there. The third is in neutral space. Dr. Chum understood immediately. We could guide each species to a different system. They both get what they need without fighting. But how do we guide them without them knowing? Martinez asked. Elena had learned that the best manipulation was invisible manipulation. Anonymous tips. We leak information about the other systems through their own intelligence networks. Make it look like their own spies discovered the alternatives. The operation took 2 months of careful planning. Human agents, disguised as aliens, planted information in exactly the right places. False documents were created and left where they would be found. Computer systems were hacked to insert helpful data. Neither the Talanari nor the Bixen ever knew humans were involved. Each species, thought they had discovered the alternative systems through their own intelligence work. The war was prevented, millions of lives were saved, and the Confederation took credit for the peaceful solution. Elena watched the news reports from her asteroid base. Confederation leaders praised their own diplomatic skills. SciFi gave speeches about the wisdom of Confederation leadership. They have no idea what really happened, Martinez said with satisfaction. That's exactly how we wanted. Elena replied. This success led to bigger operations. Human agents prevented a plague on 7 worlds by secretly delivering vaccines. They stopped 3 terrorist attacks by providing early warnings through anonymous tips. They helped struggling colonies survive by creating accidental trade opportunities. Each success taught the humans more about how galactic politics really worked. They learned which species could be trusted and which couldn't. They discovered the Confederation's weaknesses and blind spots. Most importantly, they began recruiting allies. Species that had been rejected by the Confederation. Individual aliens who disagreed with their governments. Traitors who wanted to deal with humans regardless of the laws. Elena called them the outcasts, those who didn't fit into the Confederation's neat, controlled system. Just like humanity itself, Dr. Chun's psychological profiles proved incredibly accurate. He could predict how different species would react to various situations. This let Elena plan operations months in advance, setting up chains of events that would unfold exactly as she wanted. Captain Martinez's ghost fleet grew larger and more advanced. Human engineers, working without the safety nets and regulations that slowed down Confederation development, created technologies that surpassed anything the aliens had thought by the end of the 5th year. Elena had built something unprecedented, a shadow government that operated across the galaxy without anyone knowing it existed. Humanity was no longer trapped in their home system. They were everywhere, watching everything, influencing events from the darkness. The Confederation thought they had caged a dangerous animal. Instead, they had created a patient, intelligent predator that was learning to hunt. 12 years had passed since humanity's banishment. Elena Vasquez now stood in a conference room that officially didn't exist, on a space station built in the dark void between galaxies. Around the table sat representatives from across human space and beyond. The network has grown beyond what we imagined, Elena said to the assembled group. Her hair was completely gray now, but her mind was sharper than ever. We influence events on over 300 worlds. Our intelligence network covers 90% of Confederation space. It's time to make this official. The people around the table represented humanity's greatest achievement. There was Admiral Chun, formerly Dr. Chun, who now ran intelligence operations across the galaxy. Captain Martinez had become Fleet Commander Martinez, leading a space force that the Confederation didn't know existed. Next to them sat unexpected allies. Krikstal was a Bixen engineer whose species had been saved from war by human intervention 5 years ago. She now worked openly with humans, sharing technology and resources. Valamon was a young Altarian who disagreed with his species' rigid thinking. He provided inside information about Confederation politics. "What are you proposing?" asked Director Walsh, who represented the hidden human colonies scattered across the galaxy. Elena activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy-wide structure they had built. "I propose we formalize what we've created. The Shadow Council, a real government that operates in parallel to the Confederation." The display showed 4 main departments, each with its own purpose and leadership. First, the Department of Gentle Persuasion, Elena explained. Admiral Chun will lead this. Economic pressure, political manipulation, careful information leaks. When we want something to happen, but we want it to look natural. Admiral Chun nodded. His team had become experts at manipulating galactic events. They could crash a planet's economy or boost it, depending on what served human interests. They could make politicians rise to power or fall from grace, all without anyone knowing humans were involved. Second, the Department of Necessary Corrections. Commander Martinez leads this. Sometimes, gentle persuasion isn't enough. Sometimes bad people need to be stopped directly. Martinez's department was smaller but deadly effective. Her teams could infiltrate any facility, eliminate any target, or destroy any weapon. They had prevented 6 wars, stopped 12 terrorist attacks, and eliminated threats that the Confederation couldn't or wouldn't handle. Third, the Department of Future Sight. Director Walsh, this is yours. We need to see what's coming before it arrives. Walsh's people were analysts and strategists. They studied trends, predicted conflicts, and planned for future challenges. Their computers could process information from thousands of worlds and predict political changes years in advance. Finally, the Department of Hearts and Minds. Crystal, you'll coordinate this with our alien allies. This was Elena's newest creation. Rather than just manipulating events, they were beginning to change how aliens thought about humans. Carefully planned stories, cultural exchanges, and examples of human helpfulness were slowly changing galactic opinion. The question is, Elena continued, are we ready to take responsibility for galactic leadership? The room fell silent. What Elena was proposing was enormous. They weren't just planning to influence events anymore. They were planning to become the real government of the galaxy, whether the Confederation admitted it or not. Velmon spoke first. The Confederation is dying, he said in his mechanical-sounding voice. The leadership is too old, too rigid. They can't handle modern challenges. Most young aliens know this. My people are starting to ask questions, Crystal added. Why do human ships appear whenever there's a crisis? How do these helpful, anonymous tips always come at exactly the right time? Some are beginning to suspect the truth. Elena had been expecting this. Then we need to prove ourselves worthy of the trust they're starting to place in us. The test came sooner than anyone expected. 3 weeks later, Admiral Chun burst into Elena's office with urgent news. Military coup on Alteria Prime, he said. A group calling themselves the Pure Blood Faction has taken control of the government. They're demanding the expulsion of all non-Altarian species from Confederation leadership. Elena felt her blood turn cold. The Altarians were the most powerful species in the Confederation. If extremists controlled them, it could lead to galactic war. How bad is it? She asked. Bad. They've taken Zephyr prisoner. They're claiming he's been corrupted by alien influence. They want to return to the old days when Altarians ruled everything directly. Elena called an emergency meeting of the Shadow Council. Within hours, representatives were gathering either in person or through secure communication links. Galactic civil war starts in 72 hours unless we act, Elena told them. The Pure Blood faction has support from military units on 50 worlds. If they succeed, they'll try to conquer every species that isn't Altarian. Commander Martinez leaned forward. My forces can take the government buildings on Alteria Prime, but that would expose us completely. No more secret operations after that. Future sight analysis shows a 90% chance of total galactic war if the coup succeeds, Director Walsh reported. Billions dead within the first year. Elena realized this was the moment she had been preparing for since the day of humanity's banishment. We have to act, but we have to be clever about it. She outlined a plan that was breathtakingly complex. The Shadow Council would coordinate actions on dozens of worlds simultaneously, but they would make it look like the Confederation's own systems were saving themselves. Admiral Chun's teams would manipulate communication networks to spread propaganda against the coup. Commander Martinez's forces would disable key military installations while making it look like technical failures. Director Walsh's analysts would predict the coup leader's moves and prepare countermeasures. Kriegsthal's cultural specialists would organize protests and resistance movements. The operation began at exactly midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Across 50 worlds, human agents and their alien allies moved into action. On Alteria Prime, mysterious technical failures shut down the coup leader's communication systems. Their military units received contradictory orders that came from their own command structure. Government buildings lost power at exactly the moment liberation forces arrived. On other worlds, evidence of the coup leader's corruption mysteriously appeared in government databases. Their supporters found themselves facing angry crowds that seemed to organize spontaneously. Key military units received orders to stand down from sources they couldn't question. Most importantly, SciFi was freed by what appeared to be loyal Altarian guards. In reality, they were human agents using advanced disguise technology. Within 60 hours, the coup had completely collapsed. The Pure Blood faction leaders were in prison. SciFi was back in power, though he was now much more humble than before. The Confederation celebrated their successful defense of democracy. Elena watched the news coverage from her hidden command center. Confederation leaders praised their own response systems. Alien news reporters talked about how the Confederation's own strength had saved them from extremism. 73 separate operations across 50 worlds, Commander Martinez reported. All successful. No human involvement detected. Elena smiled. For the first time since her banishment, she felt truly proud. Humanity had just saved the galaxy from civil war, and they had done it without taking credit or revealing themselves. We're not just manipulating events anymore, she told her council. We're actually governing. The galaxy just doesn't know it yet. 20 years after humanity's banishment, Elena Vasquez received the most terrifying intelligence report in galactic history. She stood in the Shadow Council's main command center, staring at sensor data that made her blood run cold. Confirm the readings, she ordered Admiral Chun. Confirmed, Chun replied, his voice tight with worry. Long-range sensors detect a massive fleet approaching from outside the galaxy. Unknown technology, unknown species. Estimated size, 10,000 ships, each larger than anything in Confederation space. Commander Martinez looked up from her tactical displays. Their technology is beyond anything we've seen. Our stealth ships can barely get close enough for detailed scans. They're heading straight for the heart of Confederation space. Elena felt the weight of 20 years of preparation settling on her shoulders. How long until they arrive? 6 months, Director Walsh reported. And Elena? The Confederation doesn't know they're coming. Their long-range sensors can't detect ships at that distance. Elena closed her eyes. For 2 decades, humanity had protected the galaxy from the shadows, solving problems the Confederation couldn't handle. But this was different. This was an invasion that could destroy every world in the galaxy. What's the Confederation's military response capability? She asked. Terrible, Martinez said bluntly. Their ships are designed for show, not real warfare. They haven't fought a serious war in 8,000 years. Their tactics are outdated. Their weapons are ceremonial, and their commanders have no real battle experience. Admiral Chun brought up a holographic display showing Confederation military strength. They have numbers, but no coordination. Each species maintains its own separate fleet. They've never trained together for a real emergency. Elena made the hardest decision of her life. It's time to reveal ourselves. Partially. The room went silent. For 20 years, secrecy had been their greatest weapon. Once they revealed themselves, everything would change. How partial? Commander Martinez asked. We show them our military capabilities. We help them fight, but we don't tell them everything about what we've built. The first sign of humanity's return came 3 days later. Confederation monitoring stations detected strange signals. From the edge of their territory, sophisticated scanning beams that were mapping the approaching invasion fleet. ZEPH. I was in his office on Nexus Prime when his aide brought him the impossible report. Sir, we're receiving detailed intelligence about the invasion force. The data is incredibly precise. Ship types, weapon configurations, tactical formations. But sir, we don't know where it's coming from. SciFi studied the information with growing amazement. Whoever was providing this intelligence had sensor technology far beyond anything the Confederation possessed. The answer came the next day, when a human ship decloaked directly in front of the Confederation Council building. Elena stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship, watching Nexus Prime grow larger on the main screen. The ship around her represented 20 years of desperate innovation. It was larger, faster, and more powerful than anything in the Confederation fleet. Open a channel to the Council, she ordered. SciFi's 4 eyes went wide when Elena's face appeared on his communication screen. She looked older, grayer, but her expression was calm and confident. "Hello, Counselor SciFi," Elena said politely. "We need to talk." Within hours, Elena was back in the same chamber where humanity had been rejected 20 years earlier. But this time, she wasn't asking for permission. This time, she was offering to save their lives. "The invasion fleet will be here in 5 months," Elena told the assembled council. "Your current military forces cannot stop them. Without help, every world in the galaxy will be conquered or destroyed." The insect-like counselor buzzed its wings nervously. "Where did you get this information? How do you know about this invasion?" Elena smiled slightly. "We've been watching. For 20 years, we've been watching everything." "Impossible," SciFi said. "Our sensors would have detected your ships, would they?" Elena asked. She pressed a button on her wrist device. Suddenly, the chamber's windows showed something that made every alien gasp. Outside, dozens of human ships were decloaking around Nexus Prime. They had been invisible, hiding in plain sight around the Confederation's most heavily defended world. "For 20 years, you thought you had caged us," Elena continued. "In reality, we've been protecting you. Who do you think prevented the war between the Talonari and the Bixen? Who stopped the Altarian coup last year? Who has been solving your problems while you took credit?" The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Aliens talked over each other in dozens of languages. Elena waited for quiet, then continued. "The invasion fleet consists of a species called the Devourers. They consume the resources of every world they conquer, then move on to the next target. They've already destroyed 3 smaller galaxies. We are next." She activated a holographic display showing the invasion fleet in detail. They have 10,000 ships. Each one carries weapons that can crack a planet's crust. Their strategy is simple: destroy all military resistance, then strip every world of useful resources. SciFi leaned forward. "Why should we trust you? You could be lying about this threat." Elena's expression hardened. "Because, Counselor, your homeworld is their primary target. Our intelligence shows they plan to attack Altaria Prime first, to destroy Confederation leadership." That got everyone's attention. The chamber fell completely silent. "What do you want?" the furry 6-legged alien asked. "A temporary alliance," Elena replied. "Humanity will share our advanced technology and tactical expertise. We'll coordinate the defense of the galaxy. In return, you recognize our right to exist and give us a voice in galactic affairs after the war." The insect counselor spoke up. "What guarantee do we have that you won't try to conquer us after the invasion is defeated?" Elena almost laughed. Counselor, if we wanted to conquer you, we could have done it any time in the last 20 years. We could have destroyed your government, crashed your economy, or eliminated your leadership. Instead, we protected you. She was right, and everyone in the chamber knew it. If humans had wanted to harm the Confederation, they had had countless opportunities. Show us what you can do, HFY said quietly. Elena smiled. Admiral Chun, begin Operation Sunlight. Across Confederation space, human ships decloaked simultaneously. On 300 worlds, hidden monitoring stations revealed themselves. Alien governments received detailed reports on every human operation that had protected them over the past 20 years. The revelation was staggering. Humans had prevented 14 wars, stopped 37 terrorist attacks, saved 62 worlds from natural disasters, and eliminated hundreds of threats that the Confederation had never even known about. Most shocking of all, human technology had advanced far beyond anything the aliens possessed. Ships that could travel faster than light while remaining invisible. Weapons that could destroy targets across star systems. Computers that could predict political changes months in advance. On Veltar Prime, the government received a report showing how humans had secretly provided aid during their economic crisis. On Bixen space stations, engineers studied human technology that was decades ahead of their own work. You've been governing us without us knowing it, HFY said, his voice filled with wonder and fear. We've been serving you, Elena corrected. There's a difference. We didn't seek power over you. We sought to protect you. The first test came 2 weeks later when Devour scout ships arrived at the edge of Confederation space. The Confederation fleet moved to intercept them using traditional tactics. They were destroyed in minutes, but then human ships engaged the scouts using advanced weapons and tactics the aliens had never seen. The Devour ships, which had seemed unstoppable, were torn apart by coordinated human attacks. Elena watched the battle from the Shadow Council's command center. Signal all Confederation fleets. Tell them to follow our tactical instructions exactly. No improvisation, no independent action. If they want to survive, they do exactly what we tell them. For the first time in galactic history, human voices were giving orders to alien military forces. And for the first time in galactic history, those forces were winning battles against a superior enemy. 2 years after the Devour invasion ended, Elena Vasquez stood before a very different galactic assembly. The old Confederation Council chamber had been destroyed during the war. This new building, built on a neutral world jointly chosen by all species, represented a new era. The war had been brutal but decisive. Human tactics and technology, combined with Confederation numbers and resources, had crushed the Devour fleet in 80 months of intense fighting. But the victory had cost the old galactic order everything. Elena looked out at representatives from 200 species. Many were faces she recognized from 20 years of secret operations. Others were new species that had been freed from Devour occupation, or young leaders who had risen to power during the war. The old rigid hierarchy was gone. Species that had been ignored by the Confederation now sat as equals beside former council members. The chamber buzzed with dozens of languages and the energy of real democracy. The question before us today, Elena said, addressing the assembly, is simple. What kind of galaxy do we want to build? She activated a holographic display showing the current state of galactic civilization. Many worlds were still rebuilding after the war. Trade routes were disrupted. Millions of refugees needed new homes. The old governmental systems had collapsed under the pressure of total war. HFY stood up to speak. The former Confederation leader looked tired and older, but his voice was strong. I want to say something to Elena Vasquez and to humanity. The chamber fell silent. Everyone remembered how HFY had led the charge to banish humans 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I called humans too dangerous to join civilized society. I said they were too unpredictable, too aggressive, too likely to disrupt galactic peace. He paused, his 4 yellow eyes focused on Elena. I was right about humans being unpredictable, but I was completely wrong about what that meant. Murmurs of agreement came from around the chamber. During the war, human unpredictability saved us all. When our rigid battle plans failed, humans adapted new strategies in hours. When our traditional diplomacy couldn't unite the species, humans found ways to bring everyone together. When our old technologies proved useless, humans invented new ones. HFY's voice grew stronger. I spent 20 years fearing human potential. I should have been celebrating it. Elena Vasquez, on behalf of my species and my personal honor, I formally apologize for our mistake. Elena felt unexpected emotion tighten her throat. After 2 decades of working in shadows, this public acknowledgement meant more than she had expected. "Thank you, Counselor HFY," she said, "but apologies are needed. You were protecting your people the best way you knew how. Now we need to work together to protect everyone." Crixtel, the Bixen engineer who had become one of Elena's closest allies, activated her own display. The Bixen Republic supports the human proposal for a galactic reorganization. Our experience working with humans during the war showed us the value of merit-based leadership. The human proposal was radical by old Confederation standards. Instead of permanent council positions based on species age or political power, the new government would choose leaders based on their ability to solve problems and serve others. Species would earn representation by contributing to galactic society through scientific advancement, diplomatic success, military service, or cultural achievement. Young species with good ideas would have the same voice as ancient civilizations. Director Walsh, now representing human colonies across the galaxy, stood to explain the proposal in detail. We call it the Galactic Unity Council. Every species gets a basic voice, but additional influence must be earned through service. "Who decides what counts as service?" asked a representative from the Crystal-Based Resonance Collective. Elena answered, "We all do. The Council will evaluate contributions using objective standards. Problems solved, lives saved, technologies shared, conflicts prevented. Leadership positions will rotate every 5 years based on proven performance." The discussion that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of species arguing for their ancient rights and privileges, they talked about their plans to contribute and serve. The war had changed everyone's perspective. A young Veltar named Siln spoke up. The Veltar world support this proposal. During the war, we saw how human leadership brought out the best in all our species. We learned more about cooperation in 2 years than we had in the previous 2,000. More voices joined in. The Zephyrians, who had been human allies since before the war, pledged their advanced engineering skills to galactic reconstruction. The Altarian youth movement, led by Velamon, announced they were breaking with their species' traditional isolationism. But the most important moment came when an alien Elena had never seen before stood to speak. She was tall and elegant, with silver skin and graceful movements. "I am Ashtara of the Luminous Depths," she said in a voice like music. "We are a species that chose isolation long ago, watching the galaxy from hidden worlds. We have observed the rise and fall of May civilizations." Elena felt a chill. A species that had been watching secretly, just like humanity had done. "We have watched humanity for 20 years, Ashtara continued. "We saw their banishment, their hidden work, their protection of ungrateful worlds. We have never seen a species sacrifice so much for others while asking for so little in return." She looked directly at Elena. "The Luminous Depths officially end our isolation today. We offer our knowledge and resources to this new galactic government under human leadership." The chamber erupted in excited discussion. The luminous depths were a legend, a species so advanced they were considered mythical by most aliens. Their support would make the new government legitimate in the eyes of every civilization. Elena called for a formal vote on the new galactic structure. The result was overwhelming: 187 species in favor. Only 13 opposed. As the assembly celebrated, Elena stepped outside onto the building's observation deck. Commander Martinez joined her, looking out at the stars. "It's not what we expected when we were banished," Martinez said. Elena smiled. "Nothing ever is. We thought we were going into exile. Instead, we were learning to lead. Do you think we're ready for this responsibility?" Elena considered the question seriously. 6 months ago, I would have said no. But the war changed us. We're not the same species that was rejected 20 years ago. We've learned patience, wisdom, and humility. She pointed to the stars. Besides, we won't be leading alone. Look what we've built together. The observation deck filled with representatives from dozens of species. Former enemies now working as allies. Young leaders sharing ideas with ancient civilizations. Military officers planning peaceful exploration missions instead of battles. Zephyr approached Elena with something approaching shyness. "Elena, I have a personal request." "What is it?" "Would you consider appointing me as an advisor to the new government?" "I know it seems strange, given our history, but..." Elena smiled warmly. "Zephyr, experience and wisdom are exactly what this government will need. I was hoping you would agree to serve." As the evening continued, Elena reflected on the strange path that had brought them here. 20 years ago, she had stood in humiliation as humanity was cast out of galactic society. Today, she was helping to design a better society for everyone. The aliens had been right to fear human potential, but they had been wrong about what that potential would become. Humans hadn't conquered the galaxy. They had taught it to conquer itself, to rise above old fears and limitations. In her final speech to the assembly, Elena said the words that would be remembered for generations. "They banished us because they feared what we might become. We became exactly that, but we became it for them, not despite them." In the shadows, we learned that true power isn't about ruling over others. It's about lifting everyone up to face whatever challenges the universe might bring. The new Galactic Unity Council began its work the next day. Humanity no longer hid in the shadows, but stood openly as the galaxy's guides and protectors. They had proven their worth not through conquest or demands, but through 2 decades of quiet service. The galaxy was finally ready for what humans had always been. Not perfect beings, but ones who never stopped trying to become better.